Okay, when you take your cover off, you're going to have 11 8mm bolts all the way around it. And the other thing you want to do is make sure you clean up your surfaces really well on both sides. I still got to get in here and brush everything off, but just make sure you get it good and clean, so when you put that new gasket in there, it's sealing up really well. You definitely don't want to put it all back together and then have a leak. So that's gonna just take the Dremel with a buffer pad or a wire brush, and just a soft wire brush, and that'll clean up real nice. So to remove your stator, you have 1, 2, 3. These are 8mm bolts too, and you have 1, 2 little Phillips head screws, bolts that hold your wiring harness in on the back side there. So that you should pull them, and then your stator will pull right out with your wire. So your wiring harnesses between the two are a little bit different. I actually have the 650 watt stator installed back into the cover. So this is the piece that you only have one harness here. So you're just going to have to snake this through back by the gas tank. Here, I'll try to get through here. You can see where I got the tie here. I'm going to have to snake that through here. This is your harness, and then it goes back around the back of your gas tank and comes through right by your shock tower there. So you'll have to snake that through and secure it in really well. You want to make sure that this isn't flopping around and maybe rubbing on your spring or anything like that. You'll have to take this piece, this is the original piece that was in your machine, out. It's actually wired into this protective harness here, so you're gonna have to pull. I pulled the harness completely out and split it open, pulled this wire out of there. This is, so you can see, this is the piece that connects to the stator, and then that was the piece that connected to the original voltage regulator. I got that out of there, that way I didn't have the extra wiring laying around, flopping around inside the machine. Here's the original stator, the 400 watt stator. You can see there's your original square plug. When you're putting these two screws back in on this shroud here, it's good to have a magnetic tip Phillips. Just help get the screw guided in there. Here I took my bolt out, and then now I'll just thread that back in just enough to give it some threads to push on. And you take your flywheel puller, you thread that onto the threads of the flywheel, nice and tight. Tighten that up, and then you just tighten this, and then the flywheel will pop off. Flywheel puller is definitely a necessity. You look, Can-Am Parts guy has it for 50 bucks. Okay, so I've pushed the puller all the way in. Your flywheel. So here's your piece that's going to catch on for your starter. This is a one-way bearing. You can see, I'm going to turn it one way, not the other. Okay, that'll actually pull out. You can do it with one hand. So that'll pull out. You're going to set that aside. Okay, and then you actually have to take the flywheel off of this one-way bearing piece. Looks like a 10mm in there, or a Torx head. I'm going to try to use a socket on it, but yeah, you remove these 3 bolts, and then that'll pull the flywheel off. Okay, so I got the bolts taken off, and this just pulls off. And there you have your one-way bearing. I'm just going to leave that sit just like that. There's no way, you can't you can install it backwards, so it won't let you. Take my bolts out. Set them. Okay, I got the new 650 hooked up onto that one-way bearing. Just lined her up, and definitely you want to make sure you get your good old JB Weld Loctite. And you're just gonna put it on there, and I'm gonna get the Loctite on there and tighten them up real good, and then we'll move on. So now that you got your flywheel off, it's a good time to clean all your surfaces. Everything's exposed. Clean all this little bit of residual from a gasket. I just use a little chunk of Brillo pad and just scrape away at it till it's good and clean. You also want to inspect the internal parts of the engine while I should just say the front head timing chain guide. This is the timing chain guide right here. Just want to make sure that it ain't wore out, and it's all in one piece, which this one is, so we're good to go. When you put your flywheel back on, you torque the bolt to 111 foot-pounds. It's kind of tricky because you actually spin the motor, so you're gonna have to lock up the clutch on the other side in order to actually get the torque wrench to torque to the 111 foot-pounds. Got the cover back on with the new stator in it. When you torque these 8mm bolts back down, it's going to be to 89 inch-pounds, and I definitely recommend sticking to the torque specs on that one. Your backing, you could crack your threads in your back. It's going to kind of go on a little bit hokey, so make sure you do your cross pattern when you're torquing it, and then do your once around, twice around. Just make sure everything matched up really well, paired up well. Your surfaces are met up evenly. Got the cam sensor back on. That torques to 89 inch-pounds as well. Well, that pretty much does it. Got it all buttoned back up. Cam sensor's on. I wired the wire up through. I still got to do the zip ties in a couple other spots here. You do end up with a little bit of extra wire there, but that's fine. You can just wrap it up and tuck it in. I got on the back side here, comes through. And like I said, I'm gonna kind of do a little bit more zip tying just so I can get things up and out of the way. But yeah, that's how she looks after everything's done. I hope this helps somebody, and like I said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot me a message or whatever you want. Now I'm on to putting my Mr. RPM valve covers on. So hope this helps, and I'll be talking to you guys. Have a good one.